screwed up again. Hit the wrong button. Hello, everyone. Hi. If you can see and hear me, please let me know because things aren't going really well as I approach this show tonight. So I just want to let you know that. So somebody tell me that. If you see like lights flickering, it's not for the effects. It's because my granddaughter just knocked my big huge light off. And it did something to the bulb, and I'm not sure it's going to hold. So if in the middle of the show it just everything goes dark or it keeps going, that's what happened. And now I can't fix it. Okay. Michelle says you can hear and see me. Okay. That was not an auspicious start because I hit the final video instead of the beginning video. And if you're new watching this, sorry about that. You're going to find that I am a very careless kind of presenter. I just do things as they go. I'm not all that worried about perfection, and it's because I can't achieve it. So I'm just giving up on that. But if you want to learn interesting things about criminal profiling and crime scene analysis, this is the place to be. Just don't have those really rigid ideas that I'm going to be perfect, because go someplace else. Anyway, and if you are here for the first time and you're watching this, because this right now, everybody here, all of my wonderful friends here who are here watching the live show, and sometimes people say, well, I didn't know it was going to be a live show. Well, no, because you have to be on Patreon and to know that. Hold on a second, because I tell you. I'm going to get myself together in a second. It's just not so soon. Oh, I can't even do that. All right, never mind. Yes, if you're normally I have I'm on a green screen, so usually I can pull that up and show you how you can support the channel. And one way is over here, which is not on my green screen because I don't have my green screen, is that you can join Patreon. There are 3 levels, and at the 3rd level, which all my friends here tonight are at, you can join the Hangouts during the week, and you can ask me questions and just have a good time. Otherwise, you can just support the channel on any of the other 2 levels, and I really appreciate that. Also, please just subscribe to the channel, like the channel, and share with your friends, especially on true crime groups. Those people that might be interested in the content that I do provide. Okay. All right, I'm going to start now. Hi, everybody. As I said, this is during when I do my live shows. Okay, I'm still kind of, I have a loose method of doing those, but my hangouts are even more so because literally I'm hanging out, and this is my midweek. Have a good time with my friends, and don't worry too much. Now, oh my goodness. What does Lisa say here? As soon as merch becomes available, I want a t-shirt and a tote bag. Oh, and a mug, please, Pat. Oh my God, if I could only figure out the merch thing. I actually have an idea for something my daughter sent over. So one of these days I might do merch, but I'm still working on trying to even be in front of the camera and not have like horrible reflections, which I always do. And I don't understand the lighting situation. I really want to hire somebody for the lights because this sucks, but I can't find anybody. So, that's life. Sometimes you just have to wait until you have the opportunity to run to the right people who you can hire and say, hey, look, make a studio for me that doesn't suck. So anyway, okay, I'm already hot. All right. So what am I going to talk about today? I want to start out with a really, really horrifying crime, and I think you ought to know about this. Alabama man accused of feeding meth to a tax squirrel. It's interesting. There was a story, and I think I brought it up, about a squirrel who was attacking all these people. And they were like, the people going, oh, look at the cute squirrel. The thing would jump on them, was biting them, and it attacked like 7 different people. And I don't think this has anything to do with that story, but there's this dude in Alabama who's feeding the squirrels in this area meth. So, I haven't heard that one before, but I guess he just wants to see what happens when you put squirrels on meth. And I'm kind of curious about the results of that little experiment he has. I mean, are the squirrels just running around like getting twice as many nuts, 3 times as many nuts? Can they not sleep in the tree and in their little holes? I mean, or do they attack people like that weird attack squirrel that nobody knew why it was attacking. And it wasn't rabid, supposedly. So maybe somebody did feed that other squirrel some meth and it was like going crazy. So I thought that was kind of a really interesting story. Wait a minute. I want to see what Martin has to say. Martin says, I want a jury t-shirt. Oh, this is great. I love it. They found me at the bus stop. I'm going to make that one. I think I'm going to do that. And if you don't know what I'm talking about because you haven't watched enough of my shows, and I try not to get on soapboxes, but I have 3 or 4 soapboxes, and I do push those because I truly believe that these are things that need to be changed. And so one of my comments about the jury system is that they get 12 people off a bus stop because these are people who have no training. They do not understand evidence necessarily, or DNA or behavioral evidence, circumstantial evidence. These are people literally get off a bus stop. So, I'm like, if you were going to fix your car, you wouldn't get people off a bus stop. If you were going to, want somebody to work in your industry, let's say drive a truck, you wouldn't pick them off a bus stop. If you wanted them to fix a rocket at NASA, you wouldn't get them off the bus stop. You'd say, wait a minute, that's ridiculous. I want them to have training. What a concept. But you put them in court with 0 training. So there's my soapbox. They found me at the bus stop. Martin, I'm going to do that one. I love it. That's absolutely great. That's absolutely great. So yeah, these are great ideas because I'm trying to figure out how to support this channel, and it is really tough. But okay, so that was my number 1 news for the day: meth squirrels. And I'm sure you are now enlightened, and you needed to know that. The next thing I want to talk about is just mention Brian Laundrie, because the FBI had come out and said, Brian Laundrie had left information, written information, that he had indeed killed Gabby Petito, which we all pretty much knew, but I think it did help to have that information be actually stated, so that, it was unlikely. When I talked about this case, people said, well, could it, how could it not be Brian Laundrie? And I was like, okay. Just to be fair, if you're doing an investigation, it's possible. It's possible that, for example, they could have had an argument and Gabby said, I'm done. This is ridiculous. Let me out of the vehicle. And she jumps out of the vehicle and he says, well, I'll be at the campsite, which is 2 miles down the street. Because people do jump out of vehicles when they're pissed off. I mean, they do. And they drive off when they're pissed off. So let's say they were 2 miles from the campsite. So she's like, I'm out of here. And he goes, so fine, I'll be at the campsite. And she's walking along, and a serial killer grabs her. And he pulls into another wooded area nearby, in another campsite area, and he strangles and rapes her. Well, she wasn't raped. So, okay, didn't get there. But anyway, he strangles her, bludgeons her, whatever, and throws her body there. And then Brian's like, where'd Gabby go? And he finds her body and goes, oh, crap. I am so screwed. I didn't do this to her, but nobody's going to ever believe me after that stop with the police. This can happen. So when we first heard about this, I said, okay, if you're an investigator, you might think 90% is over here, but you got to leave at least 10% over here until you are absolutely sure. And, eventually, of course, now we are pretty absolutely sure, because he left information that said I killed her. So I think that's pretty good. I don't think he would admit to killing Gabby if he hadn't done it. So I think we have our final proof. But I believe as investigators, we want to be sure we don't jump to a conclusion, because even though it seems rational, totally reasonable, it isn't necessarily so. And so, I suddenly want to sing that song from Porgy and Bess. It ain't necessarily so. Oh my goodness. Oh, look what Annie has to say. It must drive them nuts. That's the meth squirrel. Yeah, it must drive them nuts. You're probably right. Oh my God. Okay, so now on the heels of that comment I just made, that you don't want to jump to conclusions, because what you don't want to be is wrong. You don't want to prosecute somebody who didn't do it just because you think he should have done it. But when you look back at the pictures of Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito, it really does kind of really gives me a stab to the heart. And the reason it does is because, I watch, I'm a YouTuber now, right? So, I look at other YouTubers' channels, and some I think are crap, some I think are really, really good. And honestly, their photos were great. They really were great. And she was cute, and they were a cute couple, and they really took gorgeous pictures in these magnificent places. And I thought they had a great channel and had a wonderful chance of actually becoming very popular YouTubers. So you look at this couple and you think, my God, you were together. You had this great opportunity. What the heck went wrong? Well, I guess Brian Laundrie went wrong. Something about him was not as, his outside image wasn't as good as his inside image. But it is really sad, extremely sad. But this Saturday, U.S. time, 12 a.m. Saturday, I'm going to do my East Asia, South Asia, Oceania show. And this is a show I do at midnight my time, so that the people in that part of the world can actually come to the live show, because it's not going to be like 2 o'clock in the morning for them or 4 o'clock in the morning. They can come to the show. And I'm going to be doing this really interesting show on Peter Falconio. And this was a very similar thing to the Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito. These were a couple of backpackers who had flown, they're British, and they flew to Australia, and they were going around to have this great Australian trip, see all the wonderful sights. And they did see so many sights, and then all hell, just everything went wrong. So very, very sad situation, where they, just like Brian and Gabby, this couple was in a van, and in the middle of nowhere, something went wrong. And I'm not going to talk about exactly what went wrong and what I think went wrong, but it's a fascinating case because Peter Falconio disappeared, and it is theorized he was murdered. Some people say no, he faked his own death. And his girlfriend was there, Joanne Lees, and she looked like she said she had been, the guy had attempted to abduct her, that he had shot her boyfriend and tried to abduct her. And so they eventually did arrest somebody, but there's a lot of feelings that that's not what happened, that Joanne Lees, something about her made them think this wasn't the real story. So I'm going to be doing that one on Saturday morning, 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, if I can stay awake. And I had a huge group last time from people from the West Coast of the U.S. and people who are crazy, who are up in really weird hours like me. And then there were many people from other parts of the world, which is the whole point of me doing this. So I'm hoping that the Australians will show up for the live show, because this is about an Australian case. So I'm very excited about that. Very cool. By the way, just to let you know, and on Sunday at 3 p.m., I'm going to be doing Black Dahlia. I've had a lot of people ask me about Black Dahlia. Really, quite frank, I knew the case, but I've never looked into it. But now I am. I'm reading two of the main books on the case, and it's very, very fascinating. And I will give my analysis of the case on Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I've got 2 great shows coming up, and so please be here. Michelle says, I hope I can stay awake for that, even though I'm on the East Coast. Well, you do. There's a guy who's giving meth to squirrels. If you want to contact him, you won't have a problem. Oh, wait a minute. What is this? Oh, I got to look at Christine says here. Updated. Trial of an Alabama man accused by police of kidnapping an attacked squirrel that he made more aggressive by giving it methamphetamines has been delayed. Well, if the oh my God, it's just crazy. So I guess he actually took the squirrel and fed it meth and sent it back out. So I'm waiting to hear I haven't heard all the details of the story, but it's pretty funny. Kay says, yay for Black Dahlia. Yes, it's absolutely fascinating case. So it's going to be really interesting. These 2 cases, Peter Falconio, I didn't even know about, and I'm finding that a really interesting case, and then Black Dahlia. So this is after last week, which I was doing a television show for I'm not supposed to say. Oh, oops. Anyway, I'm doing it was a serial killer series, but I was very overwhelmed. So I didn't see any of you last week, and I missed you all. I was lonely. So wait a minute. What? That's my big obsession. Wait a minute. That's my big obsession. Is that Black Dahlia who's your big obsession? I'm just curious. Is that? I'm not sure what that I have to look to see what that comment goes with. So anyway, that's so. So one of the interesting things about the Peter Falconio case is we have, again, very similar to Brian and Gabby, a couple in a van. But things are very different in that case than the Brian and Gabby case. So it's interesting that both of these cases have such similarities of a couple who's been together a long time, seem to be having at the top of their game, having a grand time, and things don't end up in a very, in a nice fashion. So I'm going to be doing that. So, Lisa says, yeah, the Black Dahlia. Okay, the Black Dahlia case. Very, very interesting case. So I've got a lot of work to do before the weekend, like a lot of work. Some people ask me, how long do I spend studying these cases? And here's the thing. If I were hired to work on a case, then I might, be putting out, a tremendous amount of hours. I might spend 6 months working on a case. But, this is YouTube, so I'm not insane. So, I have a limited amount of time I can put out. And even then, I do, spend a substantial amount of time studying enough of it before I do my show to be sure that I'm not talking crap. Because, I'm not a storyteller. I don't just tell the story and don't have an opinion. I go, what do you think happened? Maybe this happened. Maybe that happened. I don't like that guy. That means you don't have to spend as much time in the analysis process. I will admit that some of the YouTubers who do these really nice, they tell a story, they do edit a lot. So they spend a lot of work editing, which I won't do because I'm lazy and I hate editing. But, so I respect them for what they do. But for me, the problem is not the technical aspects, but that I don't want to present a show that I've got nothing to say, or I don't know what I'm talking about. I have a hurried analysis. So I have to be very careful about, doing enough to be sure that I have something useful to present and to teach, because this is an educational channel. But not, on the other hand, I don't want to spend 1,000 hours because YouTube isn't exactly generous. And I have to eat. So anyway, now I want to go on to a couple other things which I thought were just really interesting. And one of the great things about my subscribers, especially here on Patreon, is that I get such great ideas of things that, quite frankly, I never thought about. So I'm like, I never even thought about this. So I'm going to go ahead with, okay, let me find who sent this to. I want to get my thing here too. A minute here. So anyway, Shelly, who is not here, but she sent me this, and I thought it was a great question, so I wanted to answer it. Wait a minute. Sorry. Wait. Sorry, Shelly. Wasn't that one? Okay, hold on a second. Let me go back. It's Michelle. Michelle, are you here? Michelle. Okay. And Michelle, this wasn't actually listed as one of the things I was going to do on the show tonight, but I became very interested in a particular issue about it. So Michelle had asked me, she said, I hope I make the show tonight. But in case I can't, I was wondering if you had any thoughts on the infamous and controversial Central Park jogger case. If you remember that way back when, 5 young men were called the Central Park 5. They were convicted of this brutal crime of a woman named Trisha, Meili. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. And her question was, do you think they were responsible, these 5 guys, or it was a single person? Because, and it was a great question about the fact that there were finger impressions on her thighs and her calves makes me think there's more than one person involved. In other words, somebody holding her down while somebody else attacks her. And I thought this was really a great question. Now, for all of you who do not know about the Central Park jogger case, Shelly is here. Hi, Shelly. Okay. I want to let me just find the basic Wikipedia issue in case you don't know. So I don't like to leave people going, I didn't know that case. And, what are you talking about? So anyway, the Central Park jogger was a criminal case in the United States over the aggravated assault and rape of a woman in Manhattan's Central Park on April 19th, 1989, occurring at the same time as an unrelated, now they're saying unrelated here because that's the viewpoint now, but at the time they thought it was related, string of other attacks in the park the same night. 5 Black and Latino youths were convicted of assaulting the woman and served sentences ranging from 6 to 12 years. All later had their charges vacated after a prison inmate confessed to the crime. All right. So the whole issue was this racial profiling? Was this discrimination? All kinds. And if you saw my recent show on Reuben Hurricane Carter, what I try to point out is, even if there are issues in the country or in the area of racial discrimination, I try to stay away from politics and all these issues in the show, but sometimes they converge. So what happens is with the Reuben Carter, excuse me a second, I become incoherent. Reuben Hurricane Carter, the boxer, there was a lot of claims that he was focused on because of his race. But the reason he was focused on was because there were a new number of witnesses that said it happened to be 2 Black guys who committed the crime. Not because there were 2 guys committed the crime, must be a Black guy. So similarly, let's say my ex is from Jamaica, so I spent some time in Jamaica. Now, Jamaica is highly not white. Now, there are white people in Jamaica. There are Chinese people in Jamaica. There are Indians in Jamaica, Indian descent, Chinese descent. And it's always kind of a laugh because people sometimes don't understand that those are Jamaicans. They might be just like in the United States and other places in the world. If you look, for example, look Indian, you may be, I'm an American. I was born here, for God's sakes. My parents might be have been born in India, but I was born in America. I'm an American. Same thing for somebody who looks Chinese. I was born in America. I don't speak Chinese. I don't speak Mandarin. Why are you calling me Chinese? Similarly, in Jamaica, I took my kids on a trip there because I wanted to see where their father came from. And we were going up into the mountains, and we got into this place in the mountains, and it was like really poor area, like super, super poor. So we stopped to get some crackers, some snack from a little snack shop. And we went into the store, and behind the counter was this grizzly old white guy. And he said, "What you want?" My kids go, they're looking around going, where'd the white guy come from? We're in the mountains of Jamaica. What's the white guy doing there? Speaking total patois, speaking Jamaican English as it's properly known. And there were little kids running around who were kind of biracial, like 2 of my 3 kids. And they're like, so what happened is these were some German immigrants that came to Jamaica many, many years ago. I think they were indentured servants, and they got stabbed in the back, and they were supposed to work so many years and then whatever. And they worked so many years and got screwed. So they ended up being very poor people in Jamaica. And so there are white people in Jamaica who are tremendously poor. Okay. So there are some very poor white people in Jamaica. There are again, people from Chinese descent and Indian descent in Jamaica, and you walk into their stores and they speak patois. Now, let's assume that there is a crime in Jamaica where there's a Black family having a picnic at their home, a barbecue, and all of a sudden some people come in and start shooting the place up. And 3 people tell the police it was 2 white dudes and driving a blue car. 2 white dudes driving a blue car. And the police race down the road, and just about a mile from the house, there's a blue car with 2 white dudes in it. So they stop the car and they say, "Hey, we got to check you all guys out." Are they being racist? Or is it because somebody said, all the witnesses said 2 white guys in a blue car? That's not racism. That is police work. And the perpetrators have been identified as a specific look. And, we all have different looks, different colors of our skin, whether light or dark or whatever it is, different facial features. So when the police are doing their work, they're being given a description by the people of what happened, who did this, who the perpetrators are. They can't ignore that. Oh, look, this entirely 20 Black people who were having this barbecue at this house said it was a couple white guys. So we're going to ignore that because that would be racist. So we're going to go look for some Black guys. You wouldn't do that. So the same thing happened with Reuben Carter. I mean, there was a bar 4 people were shot to death. It happened to be white people. It was a bar that had mostly white people. And everybody said it was 2 black guys in a white car. And they stopped Reuben Carter because there were 2 black guys in a white car. So that's not necessarily racist. So what happened with the Central Park jogger was a similar thing. And so what happened was this woman, who happened to be white, she went jogging at a time she shouldn't have been jogging. I'm sorry, I know everybody thinks everybody should have all the rights to do whatever they want, but let's face it, jogging in the dark in Central Park ain't the brightest thing in the world. So anyway, she did that. And she always felt safe until the day she found herself in a hospital, completely. She almost died. I mean, it was a brutal, vicious rape and assault, and it was nasty. I mean, it was extremely nasty. Let me see if I can tell you what happened to her as far as okay, she was found in the North Woods area of the park. She had been pulled 300 feet off the path. The path of her feet dragged through the grass was marked so clearly it could be photographed. It was 18 inches wide. All right. There was no evidence, though, in the grass of footprints of multiple perpetrators. She was brutally beaten, suffering major blood loss and skull fractures, and it was later revealed she had been raped. And like her eyeball was falling out. I mean, she was a mess. She was tied up. She had something in her mouth. I mean, it was absolutely people said it was one of the worst vicious crimes they ever saw. The problem with this whole crime was that, listen to this. Okay. Within the North Woods, right at Central Park, on the same night, a group of an estimated 30 to 32 teenagers who lived in East Harlem and Manhattan Central Park they came in an entrance in Harlem near Central Park North. Some of the group committed several attacks, assaults, and robberies against people who were either walking or jogging in the northernmost part of the park. And the people started reporting to the police, hey, I was just attacked. Within the North Woods, between 105th and 102nd Street, they're reported as attacking several bicyclists, hurling rocks at a cab, and attacking a pedestrian they robbed of his food and beer and left unconscious. The teenagers roamed south along the park's East Drive and the 97th Street transverse between 9 and 10 p.m. Police tried to apprehend the suspects after the crimes began to be reported. At least some of the group traveled further south to an area around the reservoir where 4 men jogging were attacked by several youths. Among the victims was John O'Loughlin, a 40-year-old school teacher who was severely beaten and robbed between 9:40 and 9:50. He was hit in the head with a pipe and a stick, knocking him briefly unconscious. All right, so he was bleeding so badly it looked like he'd been dunked in a bucket of blood. Now, so all of a sudden, there's this group, 30 to 32 young men, like doing what is called a wilding in a sense. They're running through the park, attacking people right and left. Meanwhile, Trisha, I can't pronounce her name, Meili, Meili, she was a regular there. Listen to what happened to her. She was found naked. She was raped and beaten almost to death. She was found naked, gagged and tied and covered in mud and blood in a shallow ravine. Policeman said she was beaten as badly as anyone I've ever seen beaten. She looks like had been tortured. She was beaten so badly. She was in a coma for 12 days. She suffered severe hypothermia, severe brain damage, severe hemorrhagic shock, lost 75 to 80% of her blood, and internal bleeding. Her skull had been fractured so badly her left eye was dislodged from its socket, which in turn was fractured in 21 places. She also suffered facial fractures. Amazingly, this woman survived. She remembered nothing of the attack, which she thinks is kind of a really good thing because it was so absolutely brutal. So eventually what happened was they're looking at who could have committed this crime. And what happened with the police, and this is where the difficulties come down. I don't necessarily think the detectives were bad people or racist. I think what they knew was they had this large group of teens, not good teens. I'm sorry, this is not a small line you cross. Crossing a line to mugging, beating, and attacking people is you're a violent little creep, okay? And you're in a whole gang of violent little creeps. So the police are very aware of this group, and they were rounding them up. And so they knew they had some vicious guys. So anyway, among those vicious guys, they had a number of people who they knew had committed these crimes of violence, 5 of them especially. So now, mind you, not all the victims were white. 3 of the victims were black or Hispanic. Because, criminals often don't care what race you are. They just want to be chill because it's fun. So they arrested a number of these guys. And so they got one of the guys, they had arrested. Okay, let's see how many I'm going to go through here quickly. Just want to point out basically what happened. They had these defendants, these 5 defendants. And the rape and assault case was based primarily on confessions which they had made after lengthy police interrogations. Okay, I'm going to say here, I have not overly studied how bad the methodology of the police work concerning interrogations and civil rights. So that is whole another wicket. But my point here is to just tell you why. How did these guys become the suspects? How did they get convicted? And were they guilty? Or was it a lone guy? Because what happened later, after these guys were in prison for a long time, what happened was, hold on a second, let me find the guy's name here. All right. There's this guy. His name was Matias Reyes. He was convicted serial rapist and murderer. Not a nice guy. He was already serving a life sentence. He had never been identified as a suspect in the Central Park attack, although he had been at large at the time. Reyes was believed to have raped another woman in the same area of the park during the day on April 17th, 2 days before the attack on Melee. So they did not have a database until 1994. So here's one of the problems. It's unfortunate. Anyway, finally, they got this, eventually got DNA, and the DNA on the woman and in the woman only matched one person, not a bunch of guys, just one person. Turned out that Reyes eventually confessed to this murder. He was already going to be, he's in prison for life. He confessed to it, and lo and behold, his DNA matched, the DNA of the woman. So here's the whole point. Did Reyes rape this woman? And basically, she should have died from it. So it should have been a serial murderer, but it turned out she didn't die. But he wouldn't have cared if she did. Did he commit the crime? Absolutely. There's no question about it. This is everything about the guy being a serial rapist in the past and a murderer and his DNA being there means he did it. He absolutely did it. The question comes down, did anybody do it with him? Now, he says he did it alone. Okay, so he did it alone. Now, is he lying just because he thinks it's fun to stick it to the police? Because sometimes this happens. It's like, I'm going down anyway. I'm not going to say anybody else did it with me because I'm going to make the police look really, really bad. Because the police clearly thought it was a wilding, which included this rape and almost attempted homicide. They thought this was a group of guys who attacked this woman. And the concept of, people holding her down and somebody raping her. Now, mind you, sometimes when you have a wilding thing like this and there's a group of people attacking somebody, only one person actually does the actual rape. So you may only have semen from one person, DNA from one person, not all the others. It actually does happen that way. So it's possible the police are thinking, the woman had so much damage and these guys are running through the park attacking everybody else. It must be the same guys. They attacked her. One guy did it to her, but we didn't catch that guy yet. And then later on when the guy confessed, okay, we got the guy, but he says none of the other guys were there. Here's what I think. I do think it was a crime only committed by the one guy. I think he was extremely vicious and violent serial predator. Yes, even though there were all these fingerprints on her legs and thighs, he could have done that himself, because a lot of times when you're just dealing with things on your own, it doesn't mean you're not grabbing over and over and over again. So you can do a lot of damage to a person. You can stab them, you can bludgeon them, you can grab them, you can put so many bruises on them that it looks like a number of people did it when it's only one. I think Reyes committed the crime alone, but the Central Park 5, they were out there doing bad things right in the same area, doing violent crimes in the same area. So They were good suspects. I see why the police went after them. They thought the woman was attacked by a group of people because there already was 30, 32 guys running through the park attacking everybody. And then this woman gets attacked. They're thinking that same group attacked her. I don't think it was a racism thing. I think it's a simple fact that they already had this group and they thought this group attacked her. I think they're wrong. And I don't know that there was a proper enough evidence to convict them. And I think probably that was an unfair conviction. They did commit other crimes, which they should have been in prison for. But do I think the Central Park Five actually committed the crime of this particular sexual, this rape, almost sexual homicide? No, I don't. I just think that they were in the wrong place at the wrong time doing a lot of wrong things. So that's my opinion on that case. I think it's just really interesting. And I just want to point out how things get confused because, when you're committing crimes around a place that a crime is committed, maybe you shouldn't have been there committing crimes. I'm not saying they should have been convicted. I'm just simply saying maybe your behavior, if you were acting like a decent citizen, you wouldn't be swept up in the whole damn thing. So that's just my thoughts on that. Michelle says she was very fortunate to survive such a horrific attack. Also, she doesn't remember it, which is probably a good thing. Absolutely. She's done very well. She's gone on in her life and survived and recovered pretty well. I mean, she's got problems. She's got short-term memory problems. She's not without damage from the attack, but I will agree. It was a blessing she didn't remember that. Absolute blessing. Whether it's, submerged in her subconscious, I don't know, but, at least she doesn't have to think about how it went down every single day of her life. So, I think I do think in that sense she got lucky on that, that she doesn't have to remember it every single moment, because from what I know from rape victims, it just doesn't go away. It just stays in your head, and it's very hard to take that and put it aside and say, that was an unfortunate incident that happened in my past. Let it go. It's not the easiest thing to do. So, but I thought that was a really fascinating case in the sense that this is what happens. It isn't always a racist thing. It's just, it's just they thought I think the police really thought they did it. I'm not saying their methodology from that point on was totally honorable. It did the right thing, that they should have been convicted. I'm not saying that, but I just understand why they thought in the beginning, it's these dudes. It's got to be these guys, because why wouldn't it be? Why wouldn't it be? So I thought that was a really interesting case. Now, another one I was asked about this, about the family murders in Australia. And the reason I want to mention this is because I think we're running into the same problem we have with the smiley face killers. If you haven't seen my video on that, please go look at the smiley face killers, where we have young men who ended up in the drink, and they, they were drinking and ended up in the drink. They fell into water, whatever happened, and they died. It could be accidental death, could be suicide. Mostly, I believe it was accidental. And there's these two retired detectives out of New York who are unethical, in my opinion, as heck. And they've been pushing this smiley face killer theory, where there's this huge group of serial killers running around killing like hundreds of young men, college men. And somehow they managed to get them out of bars and kill them for no reason whatsoever and throw them into the water. And yet there's no damage to their bodies or any sign of any kind of struggle. Yeah, no. So now in this particular case, the family murders, there's some pretty vicious murders, but it's what happens. It's the concept of what they're saying after that. Let me tell you about the story. The family murders is a name given to a series of 5 murders, 5, speculated to have been committed by a loosely connected group of individuals. And here's where the problem starts coming in. Known as the family. Now, the group of individuals didn't call themselves a family. It's a group of somebody else, like journalists or whatever, that make up these names to attach, and that's where all this stuff gets out of control. This group was believed to be involved in the kidnapping and sexual abuse of a number of teenage boys and young men, as well as the torture and murder of 5 young men between ages of 14 and 25 in Adelaide, South Australia, in the 70s and 80s. Look at this one. The name of the group stems from an interview a police detective gave to 60 Minutes, claiming the police were taking action to break up the happy family, Only one suspect had been charged and convicted for the crimes. His name was Bevan Spencer von Einem. He was sentenced in 1984 to a minimum of 24 years for the murder of 15-year-old Richard Kelvin. Now, there's no question about this Einem guy is a nasty piece of work, and that he killed this 15-year-old boy. However, this is where things go amiss. Police believe that up to 12 people, several of them high-profile Australians, were involved in the kidnappings of these young men. The suspects and their associates were linked mainly by their shared habits of actively having sought out young males for sex, sometimes drugging and raping the victims. So it started to expand into anybody who might have hired a male prostitute, essentially. So he was charged with, von Einem was charged in 84 of the murder of Kelvin, and then he got charged with the murder of 2 other victims. And then another guy, he was last seen when the guy disappeared. Okay, so I'm going to say that dude is a serial killer. Okay, not a problem. Now, here's the problem here. Apart from von Einem, 3 other core members of this non-existent, really, family group, a bunch of guys who sometimes hung out together, are thought to be directly involved in the murders. While DNA testing recommenced, no further charges have been laid. Well, I don't know why not, but okay. Suspect 1, an eastern suburbs businessman, is believed to have been with von Einem when Kelvin was abducted. Suspect 2 is a former male prostitute and close friend of von Einem, known as Mr. B. And another one was known as, number 3 was an East Suburbs doctor. Okay, so they start trying to connect people who have some bad behaviors. Some authorities do not recognize the term the family, stating that this gives it legitimacy. These people have no such bond, only an association with time that probably no longer exists. Now get this one. This is where I start losing it. Others who have examined the cases, however, argue there are many more victims. Criminologist Alan Perry of the University of Adelaide has argued that the murders were part of a widespread series of kidnappings and sexual assaults of boys that might number several hundred victims in South Australia from 1973 to 1983. Okay, now we're back to the smiley face killers again. So what some of these people do is try to link like literally everything. It's like every young man who's ever been prostituting has been raped or something happened to him. Oh my God, it's the family, like the smiley face killers. This is an exaggeration, and it drives me crazy because this is not what criminologists should be doing. They should not be telling the public that these things are linked when they have no proof at all that they are linked. So to say hundreds of these things all committed by a few people, von Einem was a nasty piece of work. Now they're trying to okay, there's this starts to become the conspiracy theories of politics. It's like, okay, because some of these crimes have been gotten away with, it must be that there's like 20 top level officials, famous guys, people who, have fine homes. They're all involved in this big, huge. No, usually when you have these kind of things, they're a bunch of creepy dudes, low level, screw ups, low level people. Now, can occasionally a person of a higher level be involved? Yes, but certainly not a huge family of highly politically connected people who are all, they're kidnapping hundreds of young men off the street and doing things to them. This gets to be stupid. So this drives me nuts because, especially when a criminologist has the goal to say this, because a criminologist's job is to go with evidence. If you don't have the evidence, shut the hell up. Stop making up stuff because you want to write a book. And or you want a TV show. Because let me tell you, you don't get a TV show by saying, some low-level dude did it and nobody else. But you do get a TV show if you can say, oh my God, I think there's some big, huge conspiracy running through the government that is kidnapping, male prostitutes. You get a show and you get attention and you write books. And I am bothered by that because you're supposed to be a professional and you're supposed to base things on evidence. So you have no business doing that. So if you can't prove it, shut the hell up. All right. So that's my thing on the family murders. I wanted to point out one other. Let me see if I. So let me say here. I said I was going to talk about. Hold on a second. I hate it when it does this. Oh, hold on a second. I got to find it now. Okay. I know what I'm looking for. Somebody asked me if I would do. Wait a minute. Hold on. If I would do a show on the Gardner. I do have a weird problem with my iPad. Some people say, why are you having so much problems finding things? I'm having a weird problem with the iPad, and I don't know if any of you are having this problem. I didn't have this problem until about a month ago. But what'll happen is I'll have like my I'll have these open windows. Maybe there'll be 10 of them to do my show. And all of a sudden before the show, somewhere along the way, they all just vanish. And the iPad just wipes out everything I had saved, all the open windows. And I don't know what's happening because I've never seen it happen before, but now it's happening. So, okay. So this was called the Gardner Heist. And the reason I'll talk about this isn't because I know a damn thing, which is why I'm not going to do a show about it. The Gardner Museum theft. Let me tell you what I know about art thefts. Does anybody remember the show It Takes a Thief? Yeah, I love that show with Robert Wagner. God, when I was a teenager, I watched that show religiously because I just thought he was so sexy, and I liked the little, I loved the show. And then, of course, the Pink Panther series with Peter Sellers. I love Pink Panther. And, of course, we have really high-level thieves in that. So we're talking about, this is where you start getting people who are very, very talented committing these kinds of crimes, or you have a syndicate or a group of people committing a very high-level crime to some extent. It isn't just one, Joe Blow rolling in off the street going, give me all your money. It's not that kind of thing. So I have to say, I'm a criminal profiler who focuses on homicide and serial homicides, rapes, and evidence of specific crimes. But I don't know much about the art world, except for I love certain painters. I'm a Van Gogh fan, and I have my favorites, my favorite painters, artists, but I'm not buying any of those because I can't afford any of them. So I do get the prints, but so I don't know about art theft. I really don't. So I'm not going to pretend I do, because then I'm being silly. But I want to tell you about this because there was one thing that just struck me. And so I thought, this isn't going to make a show, but I thought it was an interesting point and I wanted to address it. So what happened was, in 1990, there were a theft of 13 works of art from the Isabella Stewart Gardner's Museum. And this case has remained unsolved. And the FBI has been involved, the U.S. Attorney's Office. They're still seeking viable leads. 1990, 2000. Okay, we're talking 30 years ago. They're not solving this crime. The museum is offering a $10 million reward for information leading directly to the safe return of the stolen works. And boy, that's not working out too well either. That's a lot of money being offered for these works. And they are great works. There was a Vermeer, a Rembrandt. What else was taken from this place? Wait a minute. Let me go find the original page I was looking for. That's not the one I wanted. Okay. Let me go to the Wikipedia page because it's always more concise. So in the early morning hours, this is what's so interesting about this. In the early morning hours of March 18th, 1990, 13 works of art were stolen from the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston. Guards admitted, now get this one, start listening here. Guards admitted 2 men posing as police officers responding to a disturbance call, and the thieves tied the guards up and looted the museum over the next hours. The case is unsolved. No arrests have been made and no works have been recovered. They valued the haul. This is how much it took from the museum. So this is really important. They didn't take $10,000 worth of paintings. No, $500 million worth of paintings. Wow. And that's why they offered 10 million and not 500 million, but 10 million to get those works back. But nothing's ever happened. This is a private institution and a private collection. This is the largest bounty ever offered by a private institution. The stolen works were originally procured by the art collector Isabella Stewart Gardner and intended for permanent display in the museum. Among them, we have the concert, which is one of the only 34 known paintings of Johannes Vermeer. We have the Rembrandt Storm on the Sea of Galilee. We have also Degas, Monet, Flink, which I don't know who that is, so I got to look up my art stuff. They were all stolen, along with a relatively valueless eagle, finial, some eagle thing, and a Chinese GU. I don't know what that is. So experts were puzzled by the choice of artwork, since more valuable works were left untouched. The collection and its layout are permanent, so empty frames remain hanging both in homage, homage? What did you say that word? Yeah, in memory of, in memory of, I'm going to go look that word up now, Homage. I never have used, I mean, I know what the word means, but I've never pronounced it and I've never used it. So humiliating moments of life, whatever. Okay, I'm going to go look that one up later and find out how to pronounce it, but in memory of. Homage? Anyway, homage to the missing works, as well as placeholders for their return for 30 years. All right. Now, Annie says, oh, well, here's some good questions. Martin says, why stop at several hundred? A real criminologist would have linked 1,000 cases. We're talking now about the family in Australia. I guess he couldn't come up with 1,000 cases. He just came up with a good 100, but good point. Annie says, inside job, I bet. Well, let's talk about that. And Kay says they were beautiful works. Yes, they were. And, it's a bizarre thing when famous artworks are stolen, because you wonder who has them. Somebody, unless they were burnt or something and just thrown away, which somebody has them somewhere hidden away. And so I always wonder, I'm like, one of these days I'll be traveling the world and I'll meet this 80-year-old dude who likes 66-year-old women, because 66-year-old men don't go for 66-year-old women. So I got the 80-year-old dude who's a hot young woman. Okay. And I hook up with him, we go to dinner, and takes me back to his fancy mansion. And I'm going to the bathroom there. As I'm walking down to the bathroom, I see this painting on the wall. I'm like, wasn't that the one that used to hang in the museum in Boston? Have you never invited people over here before and they've never noted these things? Lisa says, sounds like a private person wanted them. That's a good question, because that is one of the theories. Let me go on with the theories are. The FBI believes that the robbery was planned by a criminal organization. The case lacks strong physical evidence, and the FBI is largely dependent on interrogations, undercover informants, and sting operations to collect information, which all failed. They have focused primarily on the Boston Mafia, which was in the midst of an internal gang war during the period. One theory is that gangster Bobby Donati organized it to negotiate his capo's release from prison. Donati was murdered a year after the robbery. Other suggestions were the paintings were stolen by a gang in Dorchester, though they deny involvement in it, even after a sting operation put them in prison. Now, what's interesting is let's some other interesting things. You got to wonder. This is where I go, huh? So you got two guards, and check out who these two guards were. This is just really bizarre, and the whole museum is bizarre. The Isabella Gardner Museum was constructed, blah, 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 blah. By the 1980s, the museum was running low on funds. The financial strain left the museum in poor condition. It lacked climate control system, which is amazing when you've got artworks, and an insurance policy. It was in need of a basic building maintenance. So they finally put some infrared motion detector. Wait a minute, did they do that? They were supposed to put cameras in, but there were no cameras installed, as the board of trustees thought installing such equipment in a historical building would be too expensive. You've got $500 million worth of artwork was stolen, but you can't put some cameras in? What? More security guards were hired as well. All right. Despite these security improvements, the only way police could be summoned to the museum was with a button at the security desk. Other museums at the time had fail-safe systems which required night watchmen to make hourly phone calls to the police to indicate all was well. Okay, so at the time this was happening, this is where it gets really squirrely. All right. So this is on Sunday. The thieves were first witnessed at 12:30 a.m. And the two men were disguised as police officers and parked in a hatchback, Palace Road, about 100 feet from the side entrance. The witnesses believed them to be policemen. The museum guards on that night were Rick Abath, age 23, and Randy Hestand, something like that, age 25. Now, it gets worse. Now, these are two little loser dudes. I'm sorry, but two little loser dudes are protecting a massive collection like this. Abath was a regular night watchman, and it was Hestand's first time on the night shift. The security policy maintained that one guard patrolled the galleries with a flashlight and a walkie-talkie, while the other sat at the security desk. I've seen better security at a local mall. So Abath went on patrol first. During his patrol, the alarm sounded off in different rooms in the museum, but he could not locate any fire or smoke. Abath returned to the security room where the fire alarm control panel indicated smoke in multiple rooms. He assumed some kind of malfunction and shut down the panel. He went back on patrol, and before he completed his rounds, made a quick stop at the side entrance, briefly opening the door and shutting it again. Opening the door and shutting it again. That wasn't in the police report, but opening the door and shutting it again. He did not tell Hestand he was doing this or why. So Abath was the one who was the regular watchman, and this little schmuck Hestand was his first night, and he was like, oh, whatever, because he didn't know what the hell's going on, right? He went back on patrol, and before he completed the rounds, he made it. Okay, we did that. Okay. He did not tell Hestand why he was doing this. Abath completed his tour and returned to the security desk around 1 a.m., at which point Hestand began his rounds. So now 1:20 a.m., suppose at 1:20. So he said he shut the door, opened and shut it, but I'm going to say maybe it was just opened. At 1:20 a.m., the thieves drove up to the side entrance, parked, and walked up to the side door. They rang the buzzer, which connected them to Abath through an intercom. They explained to Abath that they were police investigating disturbance and needed to be buzzed in. Abath could see them on the closed-circuit TV who appeared to be real police uniforms. He was not aware of any disturbance, but theorized because it was St. Patrick's Day, maybe somebody had crawled over the fence. He let the men in at 1:24 a.m. The thieves were led into a locked foyer. I know people say it different ways. I say foyer. That separated the side door from the museum. They approached Abath at his desk and asked if anyone else was in the museum and to bring them down. So he said he brought Hestand to return to the security desk. Now, Abath tells all these stories about he thought it was fake mustache on the man, blah, blah, blah. So supposedly, after Hestand comes in, the shorter man forced Abath against a wall, spread his legs, and handcuffed him. And he wasn't frisked. And then Hestand walked into the room, turned around. The taller thief turned him around and handcuffed him. Once they were handcuffed, the thieves revealed their true intentions to rob the museum and asked the guards not to give them any problems, because that's really nice. Don't give us problems. We're just stealing. You're stealing like $500 million worth of crap. So anyway, they went through the museum and they started stealing the stuff. And let's see what happened. As they prepared to leave, the thieves checked on the guards one last time and asked if they were comfortable. Now, okay, here's a problem I always have. When somebody says that thieves ask you if you're comfortable, I say big fat lie. Who the heck gives a crap? If you're stealing shit, you don't care if the guards are comfortable or not. So what? Then they moved to the security director's office where they took the video cassettes that recorded their entrance on the closed circuit cameras and the data printouts from the motion detecting equipment. The movement data was still captured on hard drive, which remained untouched. So then they took all the stuff out of the museum. And then the next shift of guards arrived and realized something was amiss because they couldn't contact anybody. Then they entered the building and found nobody at the watch desk. And then they found the guards still tied up in the basement. Okay, then. All right. Now, having said nothing about uh, where these paintings ended up, here is the problem I have. Rick Abbott was a suspect early on. You think? I have a problem with his everything he says and everything he did. Um, Now the other dude, I think, was just there. He didn't know what was going on. Here is another interesting thing, that there is a guy that there, to me, I'm with you, Annie. I think it's an inside job. I just do not believe for a minute that, I don't believe it's the mob either. It doesn't seem mob like. It doesn't seem like a massive organization who did this. It sounds more like to me that Rick Abbott had people who, and I do believe there was probably somebody higher up in the museum who organized him and a bunch of other people to commit this crime. I'd be looking at the museum. Let's see, who we had? We have some. Yeah, I'm not going to get into all who the possible people were involved. The director of the museum, other people who had knowledge of how the whole place worked, and recruited Abath and recruited some other people. I just don't see this as a big mob hit. I just don't. It doesn't look that fancy. It doesn't look that spectacular. I think there's somebody who knew the security system sucked, didn't do anything to improve the security system, and got a bunch of guys to work with him. After that, at that point there was somebody that person had some contact with in a bigger organization that they gave the paintings to, and they got their money, and then the bigger organization went on from there. And that's why once it was done, they didn't have those paintings in their possession. That could happen. But I can't see this anything but an inside job. And it doesn't look, I say, it's not a spectacular. It's not It Takes a Thief. It's not the Pink Panther. It's nothing really that fancy about it. It just looks like one of the guys seemed to just do stuff that he shouldn't be doing as a security guard. And the other guy just didn't know what he was doing. And it was just like the most pitiful security system I've ever seen. So I find it's just really interesting. I say I'm not going to do a whole show on this because I haven't got a clue. Outside of that struck me. The pitiful security system and the pitiful security guards and that one sketchy security guard just made me think inside job. And what can I say here? Stealing them for a private collector makes sense. Yeah, maybe. It's just, and when you think of, you've got $500 million worth of stuff you're selling. But here's the thing: people always think, well, if you're selling that much, you must be making $500 million. No, I mean, if you don't have that much money in your life, a couple million will do. I mean, a couple million, 5 million, even the 10 million they're offering, because they're only offering 10 million for 500 million back, right? $10 million split. Hey, the low level dude, you give him a few $100,000. Shut up. Whoever planned it walks away with 5 million, whatever. I mean, I don't know. I'd be curious. I don't know how they could not have come with some conclusions on this. I mean, I don't know where everything went wrong in the investigation. It's fascinating that I say it doesn't seem like it's that clever. So I don't know how the FBI didn't solve it. I really don't. I just think that's bizarre. So I thought that was just really interesting. I'd never heard of it before, but I do love art, and if you know where some of that $500 million collection goes, I'll take a run more. Okay, just a couple more things before I. Wait a minute. Okay, so I wanted to talk about just two little things. I may have. Let me see. What? Yeah, Martin says if the FBI thinks it was a well-organized criminal organization, then it was probably the opposite. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised that somebody in a criminal organization wanted to buy them, or some private person used a criminal organization to buy them. But I think they would be happier to have this be. I mean, it's not really super their style, so I think they'd be happy to have some low-level fools, do this, especially with it. If you've got somebody on the inside who says, "Look, the security here sucks. We can pull this off without a big deal." And they did. I mean, so they weren't kidding that the security sucked. And the fact that the museum having that much wouldn't do something about the security. I don't understand this, because in my opinion, at a certain point, you sell some of that 500 million that got stolen. You sell some of those off. Sell off 100 million. And then you take the money you get and you put a security system in for the other $400 million worth of paintings plus. What? So I just don't know who was inside going, we don't need security, we don't need cameras. We just need these two bozos over here. Yeah, it's just, it boggles the mind. It really does boggle the mind. I know two things I want to talk about before I sign off for the night. One thing is about alibis, because people keep misunderstanding what alibis are. So I want to pull up an actual definition of alibis, not my definition, but what an alibi really means. Now, this is the point. An alibi is a claim or a piece of evidence that one was somewhere else when an act occurred, usually criminal. That's your alibi. Also, it's an excuse for or defense for somebody. It's an alibi. So when people say, oh, he has an alibi, is that proof or is that a claim? In my opinion, a good portion of alibis are actually just claims. They're not proof. So when you look at alibis, there are some alibis which are proof, and I'll point those out right now. A proven alibi. So say proven alibi. Guy says, I was in the jungles of Brazil when my wife was murdered. That's a good alibi. He could not have committed the crime physically. Doesn't mean he couldn't have hired a hit. So an alibi is usually a physical proof, not necessarily that you couldn't have been involved, but a physical proof. You personally didn't use your own hands to commit the crime. That is a physical alibi, and that's most of them are. For example, what would be other physical alibis? I was in prison at the time. Again, you could have hired somebody. I was in a hospital in the ICU, hooked up to a ventilator. Again, that's good. That's a pretty good alibi. Doesn't mean you couldn't have hired somebody. Under most circumstances, these aren't hits. So most of the time when you're talking about alibis, you're not talking about somebody who is going to hire a hit. You're talking about maybe a serial rapist or a husband and wife. No, that could be a hit. But, most of the time it's not a hit. So when a person has a physical alibi, it's usually pretty good, unless you've got some suspicion that it could be a hit. And I will have a case coming up later in the year. I'll be talking about that. And I can't mention it right now because I was involved in it. But I will talk when it goes to court. So an alibi, a physical alibi, saying you didn't commit the crime personally yourself with your little two hands, has to be something where you could not have done it, period. Physically couldn't have done it. The other kind of alibis, which are really always questionable, is I have an alibi because I have witnesses who say I was with them. Now, some of them are good. Like I was giving a sermon at the church at the time my wife was killed. And there are 200 parishioners who will say they saw me giving the sermon. That's pretty good. Or I was in a bar and 50 people said I was in the bar. The bartender said I was there. The waitresses said I was there. Whatever. Lots of people said I was there. Many people said I was there. That's important. The word many. Because when you get to the alibis where I was home with my wife, your wife will lie for you. I was with my girlfriend. Your girlfriend will lie for you. I was with my boyfriend. Your boyfriend will lie for you. I was with my two buddies. Your two buddies will lie for you. So that's not a good alibi. It's an alibi, but not necessarily one we're going to believe. So just because somebody has an alibi doesn't mean it is a proven alibi that this is actually true, that they were where they said they were and they couldn't have committed the crime. One other method of getting a good alibi is video. I mean, CCTV, a lot of people are like, oh my God, I don't like my privacy invaded. But dang, if a crime goes down and you're on video TV, CCTV on the other side of town, you're going to say, thank God for CCTV. That's me. Also other kinds of transactions, which there had to be something absolutely proves that you could say, look, I have this receipt from CVS. I was buying this. Well, that doesn't mean it was you. I mean, it could be somebody else buying that for you. You could send your brother to CVS with your card because, with self-checkout, there's nobody checking your credit card to make sure that you're the person who owns that credit card. So you just want to make sure that with alibis that, and I see people sometimes, our armchair profilers out here in the world. Oh yeah, he had an alibi. I'm like, no, he didn't. That alibi sucked. It's not really an alibi because you don't know whether there's any truth to that alibi or not. So just don't be a little carried away with when people say, he had an alibi. Martin's, I was at home watching Pat Brown's YouTube show. Martin, I don't know that you're really there because somebody could be using your account while you're out knocking somebody off. and he says, I'll vouch for you, Martin. That's a good idea. Well, that's interesting. I can't remember. Don Wells in the Summer Wells case says he has an alibi. How many? Oh, wait a minute. He has 7 alibis. Well, yeah, oh, that's a good one. I was on jury duty. That would be good. I mean, again, if you were in a courtroom, that's a great alibi. If you were in a courtroom, that is a situation where the government will even prove you were there. Absolutely fantastic. Unless you hired somebody to do a hit. I mean, the hit thing is the only way, if you're physically someplace you couldn't have committed the crime, that you could be involved with the crime. So she says, does he really? I can't remember him having 7 alibis, but yeah. Well, one of the problems is too, here's another problem with alibis. When you don't know when the thing happened, when there's a bigger span of time, it could have happened between 12 midnight and 6 a.m. in the morning. They haven't exactly proven it for whatever reasons, the exact time of death that this crime occurred, this murder occurred. Then you've got this big leeway, and then that can be very problematic. Now, I'll tell you one thing that really sucks. If you didn't commit the crime and you were home alone watching some TV, you're screwed. I mean, you don't have an alibi. You can claim you have an alibi. I was with myself, but myself ain't a very good witness. So it doesn't really work. Lisa says I'm really gullible. You got to watch out for Annie. She's very clever. Okay, so that's one of the things I want people to understand, that it's not so clear as people think it is. The other thing which always drives me nuts is the thing about it was somebody she knew or he knew. In other words, a woman is murdered in her home, and then it's like there's no sign of breaking and entering, so therefore it's somebody she knew. And I'm going to sit here. I'm curious how many you can come up with. I have come up with 5 really good ways for somebody, a stranger, to kill the woman without any sign of breaking and entering. I want to see how many of you come up. If you can come up with the 5 I came up with, if you can come up with more, then I'm going to be really impressed. Let's see, what can you come up with? All right, so a woman's murdered in her home, no sign of breaking and entering. What are the possibilities that somebody was able to kill her without showing any signs of breaking and entering? So I'm going to see what you come up with. Come on, somebody. Got lots of you still here. Haven't fallen asleep yet. So Martin should be asleep, but he never goes to sleep. All right, there we go. There's number 1. Number 1, knocked on the door. Now, I go over this over and over again. I don't care if you got a little peephole. I don't care if you got glass on the side of your door. People always say, oh, my daughter would never open the door to a person she didn't know. Oh, come on. Everybody pretty much opens the door to people they don't know. I mean, yes, there may be some of you out there who are very, very cautious, especially in a specific neighborhood, or if you've heard the crimes around, or if you're alone, or it's 2 o'clock in the morning, you may be more cautious to see who's out there. You may. But if you're like me, you'll open the door to pretty much everybody because it's usually Amazon or it's some guy looking for somebody to do some work, or I do that all the time. I'm a criminal profiler who always opens my door. But folks, I do have a 9mm, so just in case, just to let you know. But anyway, and you don't know where I live, I hope. But I suffer from curiosity, and I admit that. I just can't stand it. I can't peep out and go, "Who's behind the door?" I don't know. I just go, "Hello," and that may seem stupid and may not be the brightest thing. So when I talk about people who do stupid things and make their risks, they take more risks. Okay, when I end up raped and murdered, some criminal profile out there saying, well, she should have been more careful about opening her door to strangers. And somebody will jump up and say, well, you're blaming the victim. No. They're pointing out something very real. Maybe Pat Brown shouldn't have opened the damn door at 2 a.m. to complete strangers. So they'd be right about that. Okay, so that's number one. Somebody knocked on the door. Okay, hold on a second. Let me go ahead. Yeah, and Carrie says she lets the killer in. This is absolutely true, because let's say somebody knocks. This is still basically the same one. Well, no. Interestingly, actually, it's two. I like the way you put that. One is the knock on the door. What happens, what a lot of serial killers do, is you open the door, and they don't even talk to you. They just go, and they punch you right in the face, knock you out, and then they come in. So you don't even, there's not even a minute. It's just like, hello? Then there is, she let the killer in. She could let the killer in because the killer says a number of things. The killer could be dressed in a uniform that maybe they look like they're part of the police, or maybe they look like they're UPS or whatever. And they go, oh, okay. Or I'm bringing this, whatever. Would you like me to bring it in? Sure. And so literally they let the person in, and then it's bad news. Or it could be somebody it's a whole kinds of things. I brought you your Girl Scout cookies you ordered. Wait a minute, hold on a second. I got lots of comments here. Hold on, let me go back. Lisa says, what's the question? How many ways can somebody gain access to a home and kill somebody without it being somebody they know? In other words, police will often say, there was no sign of breaking and entering, so it must have been somebody she knew. And it's not necessarily true. So far, Martin says there's knock on the door. She might have opened it. Also, Carrie says she might have just let somebody in. It could be a guy going. Let's say there's two girls living there. So it's Judy and Mary. So Judy opens the door, and the dude says, "Hey, is Mary home?" "No, she's out of the store." "Well, can I come in and wait for her?" "Okay." That's number two, right there. All right. There we go. Michelle, a door or window was open or unlocked. A lot of people don't like to sleep in a room. They open up the windows, and the screen is just there. So there is an open window. There are people who leave doors unlocked. The back door, for example, may not be properly locked. So yes, that does happen. People think that. So what happens? Some of these guys will just go around and go, okay, that didn't work. That didn't work. That didn't work. They might even go to the next house. That didn't work. Oh, this one works. Yeah. So they just look for an open door or an open window. And if you're a predator, I mean, you like sneaking around in the night, you like slithering around. So what does it matter if you go to 5 houses to find an open window? Not a big deal. And it points out the same thing. Door was unlocked. We just did that one. She opens the door for someone and to follow. But here's the second one. Opening the door for someone we already covered. Followed her in. This is a big one. Okay, you're coming home. You're in an apartment. You are walking down to your apartment. You got groceries in your arms. You open your door. You push your door open. You start going through your door. There's a guy walking down the hall. I mean, there's a lot of people walk down apartment halls. They go to their apartments, right? So this guy's. You come out of the elevator. He's on the elevator. He's going down the hall. And you're going down the hall, you stop, you open up your door, assuming he's going to go past. And all of a sudden, he doesn't go past. He just pushes you the rest of the way into the apartment, and he comes in. So following somebody in is a big thing. Also, they can hide outside of your house. If you have a isolated house, or just, a little dark area outside your house, maybe behind a bush or behind some kind of, entranceway. Just hide behind there. And the person comes in, they come in, and then you right in behind them. So yeah, that is absolutely followed her in. Shelley, excellent. Okay, let's see. Okay, we did a window left open. Oh, here we go. And I said, pizza guy. Well, assuming you ordered pizza. It's like, oh, did I order pizza? But by then it's too late. It's like, not really, lady. And the box is empty. I ate it. They have EQ. Yeah. You know, sometimes there's a super who runs an apartment building and he's got maybe somebody who works for him, a maintenance man or whatever, may have access to the keys, can get a copy. Or somebody, you know, you work, you leave your purse lying around and you got some guy pulls a key out and makes a copy of it, brings, you know, that can happen. And therefore, somebody's got a key to your apartment, key to your house, and they can walk right in. Yeah. And that people go, well, you know, there's no sign of any breaking entering. So maybe that's the issue. That it can be. Got any more here? Just a couple more. Well, Lisa, you'll live longer than me. I'm one of those who will not answer the door. I go to the window and ask, may I help you? I don't care who it is. You know, I'm not going to argue that you're safer than I am, and that's a smart move. It really is. It is a smart move. Also, maybe, you know, coming to your door with a very large pit bull or a very large, you know, some kind of German Shepherd, that helps. The guy runs away. Okay. Oh, here's one of my favorites. This is absolutely, Shelley, thank you very much. This is one of my favorites. A repair person unlocked a window and the person didn't know. Sort of the same as my other son. No, this is one I always push because this is so clever. So essentially what happens is, how many times you have people in your house? I mean, you do. You've got people coming in to work on your air conditioning, people coming in to work on your heating system, people coming in to paint, people coming in to do whatever they're coming in to do. Now, during that period of time they're in, they have many opportunities on the ground floor to open up a window and lift it. You know, they make sure the window works. Just unlock it and leave it unlocked. Going to the bathroom. Excuse me, ma'am, do you mind if I go to the bathroom? Can I use your bathroom? Sure. You're not going to tell the guy who's painting your house all day long, no, he's got to get in his car and drive down to the McDonald's, you know. You're going to say, of course, you know, go use the bathroom. Bathrooms have, you know, especially on the ground, they got those little windows in them unless you got one of those completely dark bathrooms. But make sure that works. And you come back at night and you open up the window, you come in, and what do you do once you get in the house is you relock the window. That way, nobody knows you came in through the window. So after the woman's raped and murdered, he just goes out the front door. And people say, oh, she must have known the guy because there's no sign of breaking and entering. It's a brilliant way to do it. And I'm just going to say this just to be, okay. I do this about security guards, and security guards get mad at me. But there are two number one jobs of serial killers, security guards, and guys that come around to fix stuff. They're both jobs you can get very easily. And a lot of times you can have skills for doing, just, different types of simple repairs and stuff like that. And I've told this story in a little bit before, but, I had a guy come to my house who, for a gutter, he was fixing gutters. I found him on the internet. He came up with a truck that had his name, Gutter or whatever, on it. And we sat in the kitchen. He showed me his contract. We talked, and he said, oh, yeah, he asked me what I did for a living. I said, a criminal profile. And he said, get out of here. I just got out of the pen. And he said, I was there for murder. It turned out as we spent some time talking together, and he worked for me, actually. I suspected him of more than one murder. So, I'm going to say the guy might have been a serial killer. But, you're working for yourself independently, especially the type of guy that comes around in the neighborhood and just knocks and says, do you have any odd jobs? That's the most dangerous guy. Have any odd jobs? The reason he's asking that is either because he's a good guy who just wants to work and not beg for money or go on welfare. He just wants to do something. And, we all have a heart for that. It's like, dang, if you're willing to do something, yeah, do some yard work for me. I need some painting done. Can you paint? Okay. I want to keep you off the street. I don't want you to be homeless. I mean, I have a heart for those kind of people, and most of them are fine. Unfortunately, it is a very popular job for some serial killers because all you do is knock on the door and you can get the work. So, it's the same thing with security guard. Unfortunately, so many security guards are needed, especially in the malls, that if you breathe, you got the job. Now, I've had sons who've been security guards, so hey, I'm not against security guards. And I have relatives who are in home improvement, so it's the problem is it's not the majority. It's just that teeny minority, but these are easy jobs to get and do. So yeah, that's unfortunately some women have, especially women who live alone. Can't, when you live alone as a female, especially if you have a limited income, you can't really afford to hire these big companies. You need somebody to do the work. If you can get it, you got to go for cheaper. And you don't have anybody to do it because you don't have a dude. And okay, I'm going to say some women here say I can do that damn shit myself, but I'm not one of them. I don't do any of that shit myself. So, let's see. Anything else? Oh, well, that's an interesting one. A marshal delivering a summons. I have never thought of that one. That is interesting. It could be a fake marshal delivering a summons because, if you knock on the door and you say, I'm delivering a summons, most people will freak out. They will think, oh my God, I have to open the door. It's just the word summons. Some people are smart and won't open the door and say, yeah, the point about delivering something is you got to find me first. But that's an interesting one because, people can be fooled. And once a person becomes confused, confused about something, they often open the door. Oh, look at this one. Yeah. Okay. We have some ideas from Lisa. Says cable service, water company, any utility company, correct? Solar panel offering. I have a son who did solar panels. Okay. Window replacement offerings. Yeah. Sometimes, that's a good one, actually. I like that one. So Lisa says, people knock on the door and they've got the clipboard and they say, hey, I'm in the neighborhood and I just did some work for one of your neighbors, even if it's a lie. I did some work on the roof for one of your neighbors putting in solar. Would you be interested in, doing some solar work for your house? And of course you're like, oh my God, I've got a problem with my heating bill. I would love solar because my roof does face south. So, hey, come on in. Well, let me talk to you about it. You welcome the guy in, sit down in the kitchen to talk, to look at his little spiel that he's going to give. Only this isn't the real solar guy. There are solar guys who want to sell you solar stuff, but this isn't it. This is just some guy who's got a clipboard and a bunch of stuff he printed out of the internet, and he's lying to you. He's not a solar guy. He's just a serial killer. So yes, that's a really good one. That one I hadn't thought of before. That one's really, really good. I like it. Kay says, someone with experience breaking entry, they know how to do it without being obvious. Well, possibly, but the problem with you still, you usually have to use tools to break and enter if you're not doing one of these other ruses. These are all ruses that we're actually talking about. So, usually, for example, you might have a serial killer gets in and what I see a tool marks, like he'll use like a screwdriver to break in, or he'll break a window, as quietly as he can, and then reach up and unlock the window and just walk in. You might do that. But then there's usually signs of breaking and entering. So, yeah, I don't know how you break and enter without being obvious at all. I guess it might be some ways. I'm not very good with that. Oh, that's a good point. Oh, I like this one. No, that's good. Someone got in with locksmith tools. I know. So basically what they are doing is using tools to jimmy a lock of some sort. And I'm going to look that up because this is one of the things, if I were working on a case and the question was, I'm going to look that up. I think it's interesting. Did somebody jimmy the lock? Did somebody have a way to get in? Would it have left marks? That's the question. Are there obvious signs that somebody did something to get in there? Would somebody be able to recognize that? And, I'm a criminal profiler, so that's not really my field, but I'm going to look that up. I am going to look that up. That's a really interesting one. Would it be even seen, or would you be able to get in and then nobody would realize that you use locksmith tools and jimmy things? That's a good one. I like that one a lot. That's a good one. Florence has a good one. Carry an injured animal. Oh my God. Especially if you look outside the house and you see, like, especially cat women. Okay, let's just face it. People, except for me, because I got the evil cat, so I have a bit of a different viewpoint on that. But if you generally speaking, like I used to live in a house that had 5 cats and a pig, and so people would think of me as a an animal person, which I actually am an animal person. And so if somebody came up to my door and said, I found this injured animal, can you help me? You know, I could see people seeing somebody with a little animal and going, oh my God, you know, opening the door. That's a very clever way of getting in there. Now, that's kind of like, little child, would you like to see my puppy? You know, so I don't know. I've never heard of it being done, but I wouldn't say it couldn't have been done. And the thing is, here's something really important about this kind of thing. The victim is dead at the end of the day and cannot tell the police how the person accessed their house. So what happens is they can't say, oh, the guy posed as a utility guy. The guy had a little, looked like a little injured animal. He could have picked up a cat off the street, and then as soon as she opened the door, he punches her in the face and then chucks the cat. But there's nobody around to tell the police what exactly happened. So a lot of times we don't have any actual information. That's why we always have this. Well, there's no sign of breaking and entering. And we think she must have known the person, because there's nobody alive to tell the truth, except the serial killer, who will never tell the truth. He'll lie like a dog. So we can't believe what he says. So that is a really interesting one. Oh, well, that's true. Lisa says, I don't think I understood the question. But if one has to be buzzed in, a person can enter the building when another tenant goes in, and they just follow them. This is getting into the building as opposed to getting into the actual apartment. But as far as getting into buildings, you know, there's two ways. One, somebody buzzes you and then you catch the door. And most people will not turn around and say, oh, I don't know who you are. I'm going to close the door, and then you're going to have to get your own way in. Most people are too embarrassed to say that. They will let you in. And the other thing you can do is like buzz a whole bunch of people, and one of those suckers will think, oh, somebody's coming to visit me. I was so happy. I was so lonely and bored. Oh, maybe it's a cute person. They'll let buzz the person in, even though there's nobody they know, and they just went down the whole list. So that is another thing to get into the building. And then, of course, you know, let's think about this. It's kind of an interesting concept. Let's assume that you're a serial killer and you just went, boom, 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 okay? So it's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and E goes and lets you in. And you look at, okay, I don't know so the number should be the apartment, right? So let's say 112 lets you in. You just go to 112 then and knock, because the fool let you in to begin with. The fool will open the door. We're going to give all these great ideas to all the killers. That is interesting. The dog door. Now we have a dog door, but for the little dog, and I have a cat door for the cat. That's a big size cat. That's a cat. It depends. I would say how big the dog door is, but that's an interesting point. If your dog door is too big, does anybody have a dog they have a dog door for that big a dog? You know, maybe that does exist. And then you could, I mean, if it's a German Shepherd dog door, yeah, I think you could slither through that thing. You know, that's an interesting concept. My gosh, that's a really good one. Oh my goodness. These are some really good stuff you're coming up with. So, okay, let's see. There recently was a case where a maintenance guy at an apartment complex went in and murdered a woman he had wanted a relationship with, but she blew him off. Oh, yeah, I think that was in, I know who you're talking about. Grinstead? Was it Florida? Oh, it's one of two women. I can't remember which one it was, but that's true. So the maintenance guys in the building, this guy had a thing for her. And, you know, of course, she wasn't interested in him because, I mean, she just wasn't. She was a college girl, and he wasn't a college guy. And so she blew him off. And again, maintenance work is an easier job for serial killers to get. Again, most maintenance guys are wonderful people, but hey, you know, it's an easy job to get. And so, yeah, so all he has to do is knock and say, I'm maintenance, and she's going to let him in. So he is somebody in an apartment building. One thing the police will do is they will look at maintenance people. They will, because they have easy access to apartments. So they will look at that. No, that's someone she knows. You say, this is someone she doesn't know. So there's no sign of breaking and entering, but they always say, if there's no sign of breaking and entering, it must be a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a friend, a family member. Must be somebody she knows. And then they go look at all the somebody she knows is, she knows this? But it's none of them, because that's my whole point. Because there's not a sign of breaking and entering doesn't mean it's not a total stranger. And my God, I came up with 5. I think you've already up to like 8 now. I mean, you come up with really cool really cool other ways. I mean, big doggy door. I never thought of that one. That was really great. My car broke down at a hotel I was staying at, and the maintenance man fixed it. I later found out he was a felon. He had keys to all the rooms. You betcha. I mean, especially, some of these, if you're in one of those hotels, it's like Marty's hotel, but the M doesn't flash anymore. Artie's. And you go in and your room has a waterbed in it and it's only $35. And you're staying there the whole night and you're like the only person left there in the morning. You're in a crappy hotel and their maintenance man probably is a bit shady. That's a good point. I love it. Let's see. If you ID yourself as the person on his or her summons, you have to take it from their hand. Yes, that's true. So, but yeah, I mean, if people believe they're being summoned, yeah, that'll be a good one. At least Lisa says, "What's my prize?" Hey, I don't know. This is like you got some great answers. Let me see if you got any. Oh, this is an interesting one, Lisa, because guys dress up as officers or utility men. Now, guys dress up as police officers are way less than people say. And this is the one thing when people come up with, or the police say had to be, no, there's no sign of breaking and entering. And then the family goes, oh, but my daughter would never open the door to somebody she didn't know. Then that whole internet goes, must have been a guy dressed as a police officer, or it was a police officer. And they immediately go there because they don't realize there's all these other ways you've actually pointed out that are much simpler than a guy having to actually be a police officer or dress up as a police officer. But it could be actually a police officer, or it could be someone dressed up as a police officer. And again, if you go down to the thrift store, like Goodwill, you can get UPS uniforms and stuff. So you can get uniforms that look like uniforms. And then people open it up because they look at it and go, oh my God, it's a UPS dude. Now we have an interesting problem with like Amazon, because Amazon just shows up in regular cars, I mean, there are Amazon trucks, but let's face it, sometimes you get those, who is it that shows up? Oh, I forgot. It's not Amazon, but it's a delivery company. And I've had people deliver from them. And I'm like, one time, this guy drove up, he had his girlfriend with him in the car, and they had like music blaring out the windows. And I'm like, I don't want to open up my door to you. I don't know, you look like low-life criminals. And they were just delivering a package, but he brought his girlfriend along and they were partying, in the car. So, some of these delivery companies who deliver, because we have so many packages now, aren't exactly the safest people. And some of them can actually case your place while they're doing it. Because if you're not home when they deliver, oh, yay. Or if they find out you're a single woman living alone and they're delivering packages, they just might come back another time and say they have another package. And what do you know? So let me see. Oh my goodness, I don't know what any of this is about here because you're all going on to something which I can't see. What? Okay, was it like sometimes when you all have conversations and I'm like, I'm not privy to, I'm not watching all of the conversation. I come back and go, what are you talking about? So I don't know. You're talking about some interesting things I'm not sure about. Oh, is this? Well, this isn't what? Jody Arias? Okay, I'm completely lost here. DoorDash? No, I wasn't talking about DoorDash. Oh my God, what? I'm trying to think of the company. It's like the worst delivery company, and some places use them. And actually, Amazon has used them before when they're in a bind. They're just such a slimy little company. But I guess they undercut everybody with the cost of their deliveries, and they're always people with personal cars. So, but yes, it's true. DoorDash also does personal cars. Uber does personal cars. So, generally speaking, when you call Uber, you're going someplace. So they at least have, when they come to your house, it's all logged in that they're coming to your house. So there's a little less chance they want to mess with you under those circumstances, although it can happen. So, but yes, you would open your door to Uber, because I do, DoorDash, bring in my food. Yeah, well, so there's just so many ways that, people can get in. And there's just tricky ways of the things that can be done, that we do. Obviously, we just don't even think about. And this is what you're all bringing up tonight, which I think is just great. I still can't remember the crappy delivery company. God, what is it? Oh, wait a minute. I call them a bad name. Wait a minute. What do I call them? Oh, darn it. I use the SHIT word with it. Can anybody remember? It's a 2-syllable word, but I always call it something with SHIT in it instead of the real word. And now I'm blanking out on, what the heck is it? But it's a crappy delivery company, so I always call them something SHIT. I'm blanking on what their name is. I haven't had them deliver for a while because a few companies have tried to use them, and I tell them don't send those people to me and I call them the bad name. But I'm just blanking on what it is. Darn it. No goodness. So I have a whole side conversation here. I don't know what it's about. So, it's going to drive me crazy. I'm not going to be able to remember this one. Anyway, I'm not going to remember it, so I have to accept that. And let me see. I think that was everything I wanted to talk about tonight. Because we're just I love these questions that came in because they're when you bring up cases that I don't either know about or haven't really looked into for years. I just get real excited about that because it just brings new information, new ideas, and new ways to examine profiling and crime scene analysis. So I really like it. So nobody's going to come up on. That's going to drive me crazy. Darn it. Maybe I should put in delivery companies. Wait a minute. Delivery. Okay. Wait a minute. Now my delivery companies. Let's see. Oh, please come up with it because it's going to drive me crazy if I can't remember it. It is not DoorDash. It is. No, it's none of those people. 10 top delivery companies. It's got to be one of these, even though it's a horrible delivery company. Darn it all. This is so annoying that I don't know what it is. Nope. I don't. Wow. That's frustrating. I do not know. Wow. Maybe I'll come up with next week when I'm on here. But they really definitely they undercut everybody. Man. Okay, one more try. I know it's got something like it has a rhyme of it in the number because that's why I can make bad jokes about it. Okay, I don't know, and nobody's coming up with it. You're not helping me out. What? This is a good one. Poses Publishers Clearinghouse with balloons and a giant cardboard check. Well, if somebody called knock, you've won some money. People will open the door to stuff like that because this is what it's amazing how people fall for stuff. And one of the basic rules for how to take advantage of somebody is that you offer them something that they want, really, really want, and that's usually money or love, or safety. Even I can sell you whatever to help your safety out, and then I'll kill you while I'm showing it to you. So oh yes. Hold on a second. I'm going to put it up on the screen. I finally remembered it. Yes, I'm so excited. Wait a minute. Where is it? What? I can't. Can I put my own stuff on the screen? There we go. All right. That is the company, Laser Ship, but I changed the last letter. And so every time they try to send me something by this company, I say, do not send me Laser Shit, because that's what they are. They suck. And they throw your stuff on the lawn. They have these complete guys that look like criminals delivering. I mean, it's just a really bad company. So I'm like, do not send me anything by that company. Yeah, that's the one. I haven't had to do it in a long time. Oh, hey, man, you got so many good ones here. Flowers. Oh my God. Yeah. Hey, I mean, I like flowers. I'm a big flower freak. And I don't have any problem with people giving me fresh flowers because I can't grow things. Okay. I have one plant I've had for 40 years. It's like a clover plant. And the only reason it's alive because it's a weed. And I've had it for 40 years. One plant, I take it with me around wherever I move to, and everything else dies. That's why I don't have a garden, because I killed the garden. But so give me fresh flowers. If somebody were standing at my door with fresh flowers, oh my God, that is a great one. Okay, of course I'd open the door. Knock, knock, flowers. I'm looking out thinking, ooh, who sent me flowers? Was it one of my wonderful sons or what? And I open up the door and then he kills me. And, the last flowers I'll ever get. Yes, I didn't think about the flower one. That is good. That is great. I like it. He said, I love flowers. Yes, as long as a serial killer doesn't deliver them. But they deliver flowers. Flowers are delivered. And you would open the door because you want to get the flowers. And for a serial killer, it's not that big a deal to, if he really wants to kill you. Maybe they're cheap and usually don't use that ruse. But hey, you buy some cheap flowers from a lady on the corner, and then all the person sees is you're holding a thing with flowers, and they don't realize it isn't the $80 flower arrangement. It's the $10 I got it off the lady standing on the corner down the street arrangement. Oh my God. Lisa says, I wouldn't open the door to the police, but I would for flowers. See, this is the problem. We all have a weak point. And what a serial killer might do, and this is what people don't understand, is that it's not like he's successful every time. Let's say he goes up the door and knocks on the door and has flowers. He goes, ma'am, got flowers, delivery flowers. And he doesn't say, whatever. And she's like, I'm not opening the door. He's like, well, screw you. And then he goes down the street to the other cat lady's house and he knocks. I always say cat lady only because, when you have two big dogs, they don't knock on your door. But if you just have a cat, you're a good victim. So anyway, knock, knock. And then the second woman goes, oh my God, flowers. And then she opens the door. You don't need everybody to open the door. You could go to people's houses and do real legitimate work in their house and try to open up a bunch of windows, but you don't actually access every one of those houses. So you can try these ploys on people, and they may not work on 90% of the people, but you don't need everybody. You just need one. One is enough. Absolutely, one is enough. So, and so if you might not fall for one thing, but you might fall for another thing, And so, and sadly, I think, unless we want to walk around totally paranoid our entire lives about every single person, every single thing, I think most of us are like, I can't live like that. I can't live like, I'm willing to take reasonable caution about things, but I just don't want to live where I'm afraid and terrified of everything and everybody, and I can't function. So there is that moment where we may be the unlucky schmuck that just, we're the unlucky one, and that's the way it goes sometimes. And we can all hope never to be that person, but, could happen. So anyway, all right. Wait a minute. So I think that was a great response. So anyway, I think that's it for tonight. And I really had a great time. I'm so glad to be here this week because I missed you all last week. It was like, it's funny because I was doing all this other work and I was doing my research and I was really tired. And then I was sitting here like on Wednesday night last week and I'm like, dang, I'm not seeing anybody. This is lonely and I miss all you guys. So, I'm really glad to be back because you guys are fun to be around and I look forward to the midweek gathering. So I'm glad you're here tonight and I'm glad I'm here tonight. And so remember, 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturday morning. I always say Friday at 12, and that's not correct. It's Saturday a.m., 12 a.m. on Friday at midnight. But yeah, legitimately Saturday at a.m. Why do we have? It's so difficult to do it that way. We really should have. Yeah, I get confused. But anyway, yeah, it's Saturday. It's going to be Saturday, 12 a.m. EST. I'm going to be doing the Peter Falconio case out of Australia, and it's really, really fascinating case. And there's been people have been talking about this case for decades, and they keep doing stuff on it and on it and on it. So obviously, it's still in the people's minds. They still have doubts, and so that's what we're talking about. And then Black Dahlia on Sunday at 3 p.m. EST. So we'll be going back in history, and I usually don't do too many old cases because it's really hard to come to conclusions. But I want to talk about the main suspects in that case because we know Black Dahlia was murdered. There's not a question there. We know somebody murdered her. It's just that there have been books written about people's concept of who the suspect is, including a guy who says, my daddy did it. And his is a very popular book, Hodel. So I'm looking into the main suspects and seeing, is there any validity, anything that would support any of these guys, possibly or even probably being the guy who killed Elizabeth Short. So, well, I'll look into all that. So it's going to be real fun and really interesting. So anyway, Michelle says, oh, that's nice. Me too. Thank you. I mean, it was so fun. So anyway, and bye-bye. Well, see you safe. And next time, yes, we'll be here. I'll be here. And so whoever is still, who is around at that time on Saturday, 12 a.m., I know if it's Australia, which is an Australian case, it should be nice time during the day for you guys so you can come to the live show and not suffer. But I found, I didn't even think about this, that some of you are West Coasters, so it's only like 9 p.m. And I'm like, oh yeah, what about you guys? 9 p.m. West Coast of the US and Canada. And then there's just some crazy people who are up at midnight. So, you know. So anyway, I will look forward to seeing you all then. Again, if you are watching the show and you've never been here before, please do subscribe and please do like. And if you want to be here midweek and join in the Hangouts, yes, you do have to join Patreon, because that helps me keep a small group of people rather than 200 people showing up and then I can't pay any attention. So you get some special privileges when you join the Hangout. It's not much. It's $7 a month to support the entire channel. Come to any of the Hangouts. And also send me questions. If you have questions, cases you want me to look at, I'll put you at the top of the list. All my subscribers get paid attention to, but I move up my Patreons because they're willing to support my channel. So, and I thank you guys. You've been fantastic. Bye. Good night, Michelle. Good night, everybody. And I will see you all very soon. And let's see, I'm going to do my my ending video, hopefully not the beginning video like I just screwed up. So here's the ending video.